Hi everyone, welcome back to this important topic in programming. Today we'll be talking about arrays. Um, as a way of introduction, array simply talks about a variable that stores more than one value in the variable name. Okay, as you can see also, I just created a folder and there is no file yet. And also before you, if you want to have the kind of experience I have, you must have to install Node.js from the official documentation, install the long-term support, and also VS Code, my text editor. So I'm creating a file, I'm calling that app.js, and then let me make a comment. So talking about array, yeah, in the first video I made about operations, I tried to explain what a variable is and how we can declare a variable and how we can assign a value to a variable. And I started that by saying that a variable is like a container for storing value. And how do we declare a variable? There are some keywords in JavaScript used according to JavaScript syntax used for declaring a variable. We have const. These are the keywords for declaring variable. We have let, and we also have the old guy var. Okay, now each of these depends. Of course, var was the initial one. It does what the two is doing, and then the keyword, the constant let, it goes a long way to talk about the scope where variable is being initialized. So I would advise you to watch the video to get more insight on this, but I'll just throw some few light on that. Now, if you want to declare for a global scope, it's advisable to use the const. For a local scope, it's advisable to use the let. So global scope talks about where the function is defined or the variable is defined. So, and then the local scope is usually the one that is defined inside a block of code like an array, like a function, but the global scope is the one that is defined outside of those block of code. Of course, we could also have a global scope defined the a block of code. Okay, now we say that a variable, for example, we say const name to be equal to I'll say John Doe. Now the const is a keyword. Name is the actual container storing a value called John Doe. Const is a keyword. Name is a container storing a value called John Doe. Then I want to bring this down a little bit. A container could be in real life, it could be like, let's say, your bag. You're going out, you put so many stuffs inside your bag. So that's how a variable is. You have a container and you're putting values inside. But if you look at the variable I've declared here, it's holding only one value. This variable container, this name is holding only one value, which is John Doe. Let's say, for example, you want a variable that holds more than one value. That brings us to array. So we have something like names, and we have let's say John Doe, and then we have also Peter Doe. We have Mary Doe. Yeah, so this is array. So I want you to have that mental picture that whenever you want to store more than one value at a time under a single variable name, think of array. Okay, now what kind of value can we store in an array? Array can hold any type of value. So let's say, for example, I have const arr, and then I say number one is apple, and of course you know apple is a string. Anything in quote is a string. And let's say we have 25. This is an integer, and we have, say, let's say we have true and false, which is boolean. And then let's say array can also hold array. Let's say we have someone's name like Peter Doe, and then array can also hold object. I know we've not talked about object. That's is a future topic we're going to be talking about. Of course, let's say this object is holding email, and we're saying peterdo at gmail.com. Okay, so array can hold any value, and then array can hold, let's say, a function called square, but it should be a reference to the function. And before you use array inside a function, make sure if you are using function expression, I've also you can also watch my previous video on function to have more insight, or you are using function declaration, so something like this, const square, so is a reference to this name. If you do not do that, it's going to throw error. Okay, so now I'm trying to declare this function, and I say, let's say it requires we do this, and then yeah, let's say something like console. Okay, let me use return, and then square. Yeah, so this is a reference to this. So whenever you want to call this function, it means to access that you're going to be doing something like console dot log. You mention the array name, then you mention the index. This is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6. So you mention 6 here, and then you call this. You can put, let's say, 4 or any number you are using to call the function. It will return the value. Okay, so that aside, I only wanted to show you the array can hold any type of number, any type of data, any data type. Yeah, okay, now that's the type of variable we can store in an array. Then another thing we'll talk about is the length of an array, so which is array length. So to get the length of an array, we mention the name of the array, we mention dot length. So all these and other stuffs are the things I want us to talk about. At this point, I want us to be seeing values at the console, the terminal. I want to permit me to step out of the comment, and let's do something more real this time around. Okay, so let's say we have an array called fruits, and then in the fruit array we have apple, then we have banana, and we have let's say we have cherry. Okay, now this is an array of fruits, and it has 3 fruits inside. Of course, remember we said array is a type of variable that can hold more than one value at a time. But now if we want to send this to the console, of course console.log, we're going to be calling our fruits, and then by the time we come here, say node, mention the name of the module, which is app.js. But if you just type app, it will still give you the value, the output. Okay, now you notice that it's returning all the arrays at a time. But what about a situation where you want to be accessing them one after the other? I do not want all of them. I want only, let's say, apple, or only banana, or only cherry. Okay, so in that case, it brings us to this, what we call index. You make use of the index. And now how does index works in array? Start numbering the array element. You could I might be using this interchangeably, array element or array members, so it's still the same thing. So the element now we have apple, banana, and cherry. So the index tries to number them, but it starts by default, it starts from 0. So let me put a small comment. So index starts from 0. Okay, so apple is 0, banana is 1, cherry is 2. Please do not forget. So if I put 0 here, it's going to give me apple. So if I duplicate this and change this to 1, I'm getting banana. If I also duplicate further, put 2, I'm getting cherry. So that's how to get output or access the array element. How to access the array element? We access them by their index. Okay, now that's the array element. How about the length of an array? The length is talking about how many elements we have inside the array, but this time around it doesn't, the length does not count, starts from 0. The length starts from 1. So we have 1, 2, 3. Please, these two things are confusing, but it's important that you know the difference. So for the length, we're going to have of course we use the name of the array, which is fruit dot length, to get the length of the array. You know, we mentioned 3. Yeah, so this 1, 2, and 3. But now if we are counting the index, notice we are going to be having 0, 1, and 2. So what that simply means, for a dense array, densely populated array, the length is usually one number ahead of, one number greater than the last index. What I mean by dense array is the array that has no space inside. Yeah, and of course, like I said, this is a dense array. Then if I have something like this, and then sorry, I want to use this, let's say I say true, which is boolean, and then I say 5. Now you notice we have a space here, we have a space here, so this is a sparse array. Yeah, so sparse in the sense that there are spaces in the array, and of course I'll show you how to create more sparse arrays, and of course we're going to be creating more arrays and to see more examples. And okay, so that's that for that. Then another thing I also want to explain is okay, how to access this. Of course, this is a space, so we do not expect information to be here, but that does not affect the length of this array, because this is 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if you put index of 3, you are getting 5. If you put in the index of 1 and 2, you are getting an empty, and the array console.log is going to give you an array that has an empty array value. So this is this. I'm putting 1. Yeah, there is no value inside 1, so undefined. It could be null, and it could be empty, just like I mentioned. So these ones has no value inside. So all these things are talking about the same thing at the same time. Okay, so these are the ways of creating. Then of course, you know, when we talk about the data type of variables, you know, we have string, we have integer, boolean, and all that. When you try to access the data type of array, it also gives out object. Now of course, in JavaScript virtually everything is an object, but that doesn't mean there is no specific type for array. So it gives us object. But how do we now ensure that this is an array, because if I also check the type of the actual object in JavaScript, it will still show object. So in JavaScript, to be sure this is an array, we usually say array dot is array, and then you mention the name of the array you are looking for inside this method. So if it turns true, it means it's an array. Let's say I have an object now, const student, and then I have let's say age, and then I say 20. Then let me check the is array of student, which is the second one there. So it's saying false. Okay, then let me also check the data type, the type of the object student. So I say type of student is going to show object, you see. So to be sure the type, because when we check for the array, it was giving us object as well. So to be sure the type of object we have is an array, we use array dot is array. Okay, so that's that for this. Then I want to also talk about ways of creating arrays. Now we've explained what an array is. We say is a type of variable that stores more than one value at a time, and we also talked about what type of value does it store. We say any data type. We also talk about how to access the number of elements in an array, because chances are that as a developer or a programmer, you'll be working on array of data, and you will want to know how many are they actually. You use the dot length, and to be sure is an array, you use the array dot is array. Okay, so let's look at ways of creating an array. Okay, we have the first one I want to talk about is the array literal, and of course we are using this there like what we've just declared. This is array literal. You just declare the array and start using that without being declared through a method or a constructor function. Yeah, so the next one we have is using the constructor function. We call that the new keyword, the new array keyword. Yeah, so that's the second way we can define that. But for the first one, I can say okay, let me talk about CRUD. Probably I've not mentioned this in some of the videos I've made before. This is a very important term in programming in general. It talks about create, read, update, and delete. Okay, now to create means we're creating something new. Create an array. Okay, now I want to create an array using array literal. Okay, let me say using array literal, and then I'll say const num. I've used most of the names I would have used so far. Okay, so here I've created an empty array. Of course I can say console.log. There is nothing inside. So num is whole, returning empty braces, empty curly square bracket. Now I want to start putting value inside. I can say num. If you remember, if you've been following me, you notice you should know that I've talked about index. Now I want on the first index, which starts from 0, I want to assign value to that, and I want it to be something like anything. Let's say red for color. Yeah, so Now this is going to be showing red inside. Okay, and I want to, on the second index, which is index of 1, I want to say green. So it's going to be showing this. Then on the third index as well, blue. So we are doing RGB. Okay, so this is creating an array using array literal, which is what we've done. This is also array literal. You can create and populate the array at the same time, or you can create an empty array and start populating them. In most cases, you populate them through a loop. By the time you are looping through a collection, you loop them into this, because this is like an empty container. Now remember, we said a variable is like a container that holds value, but we just declared a container, we didn't give value, so we can loop into the empty container. Okay, so that's for array literal. Of course, to read an array, you send to the console. We've talked about create, you send to the console. But then let me do another array. So we have create an array using the new keyword, the new array, sorry, array keyword. Okay, there's one tricky thing about using the new array keyword. Just like we had here, this the array literal, if I assign one number inside, let's say I say const let's say yes, for example, as array, I say I'm putting 10 inside, and of course this 10 is at index of 0, and that's just that for array literal. But one confusing thing is, let's say we're using new keyword, so let me use yes 2. I shouldn't be using this here, yeah, but I will remove that. I only wanted to show something. So I'll say new array, and then I put 10. Now this is important. I want you to really understand this. It's very important, because this creates a huge confusion in these two types of arrays. Now if I check the length of yes, it's going to show 1. If I check the length of yes 2, is going to show 10. What happens is, the array literal, if it has one value, which is a number, it uses that as the first element. But then the new keyword, the new array, if it has one number, one element inside, it uses that as the length. So it's going to be showing us the length as 10, while this is going to be showing us the length as 1. Let's try to see that. And of course, I told you console.log is a lifesaver, yeah, in programming. So whatsoever you want to check out, you use console.log. Now this is for yes, which is array literal 1. Please permit me to do this, array literal, and then also permit me to do this new array. Yes, okay, so it's showing 1, and here we put 2 for the new array. It's showing 10. So what this simply does is create 10 empty spaces, 10 length, but has no value inside. Okay, let's check the first element of this, which is at index of 0. Okay, you notice it's showing undefined. Remember, we had undefined somewhere around here. Yes, so it shows undefined. Yeah, okay, so that's that. In some cases, you might see array with an empty value inside. Yes, array with an empty value inside. I will show you that it must not necessarily be undefined. Yeah, okay, So that's how this works in practice. We create an array using array literal or using the new keyword. That's for create. Now let's go to read. Of course, we'll be reading arrays. When you say console.log num at 0 give you read, that's how to read. This is also a read. We are reading the array here. Here too we're also reading the array. So read the arrays, and of course all the types of array we use the same method to read them. Read the array. So for the num, it's console.log of num at 2. So for example, num at 2, which is the last one, blue. Yeah, okay. So and then also we can read the array by looping. So we can do looping through. Yeah, and also of course I've made a video on loop, so you can watch the video and then have an idea of how loop works. I can loop this particular one, or I can bring out this and loop through this. So names, I think I've used names somewhere. Okay, I've not. So okay, so I'll use, there are different loop types. Please do well to watch that, it will help you and also understand how loop works. So select I, which is the index, to be 0. So the index is less than names, the name of the array dot length, and then we increment the index, which is I, as in I plus plus, and then send to the console.log of what we are getting. So what are we really getting? So names and index. Okay, so by the time we do this, we're having John Doe, which is the first one, Peter Doe, which is the second one, and then we also have we also have Mary Doe, which is the third one. So that's another way of accessing arrays. Yeah, okay, so we've done create, we've done read. Then let's see how we can update this array. Update the array. Okay, so I want to change Peter Doe to Joel Doe. So, and you know, Peter is occupying the index of 1. Remember, the index starts from 0. So what I'll just do is do this to access that, then assign a different value. You know, when if I send this to the console, it will bring out Peter Doe. So that same thing you use to access that. Let me show you something. If I say console, not confirm, sorry, console.log, this is going to show Peter Doe. Yes. So to update Peter Doe, the same thing that gives you Peter Doe, assign a different value. This time around we say we are going to do Joel Doe. So you notice that this will start returning Joel Doe. Yeah, Joel Doe. So that's how to update arrays. And another way to update array, if you notice, we have index 0 for John Doe, index 1 for Peter Doe, index 3, index 2 for Mary Doe. I want to have another value at index 3, 0, 1, 2. I want to have another one at index 3. So what I will do is to extend this. We are talking about update this time around. Index of 3 has no value, so I can say Joy. I want Joy to be there, Joy Doe. So if I call all the arrays now, you notice that there will be Joy inside. Yeah, so that's how to update arrays. So we're going to talk about delete now. Delete array. So in the delete we use the delete keyword. Say delete does the names, and does let's say I'm doing at 2, and then I also want to call the array after this delete console.log of names. Okay. You see what I told you? It could be empty array, it could be undefined, so it means there's nothing there. Okay, so that's how to do CRUD: create, read, update, and delete in array. And the good news is most of the things we do in web development or in software development revolves around CRUD. Now you have an application where people come and they register to create account. That's great. Now probably there is a page where they will see their information when they create the account. That's great. And probably there is a phone where I've lost this phone number, I want to change this. That's update. Probably I don't like this your platform, I'm going to close that account. That's delete. So most of the things we do revolves around create, read, and update. Okay, thank you. Then the next thing I want to talk about real quick, we have what we call array methods. Because I do not want this tutorial to be long, so I'm going to do another video specifically for array methods, because there are array methods I do not want to talk about in a hurry. Things like map, things like find, things like filter, things like find index, things like for each, because they are important to me. And because in the long run I'm going to be doing videos on React JavaScript, and also videos on Node.js, and I'm going to be using these values, these methods, especially the map. The map is very important. And then when we are talking about the state global state management library like Rados toolkit, we're going to be using index and find index. So I want us to have a careful look into those methods. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is what we call array of arrays. So after the arrays of arrays, we'll wrap it up. Okay, so in other languages we call it multi-dimensional array, but here say array of arrays. Okay, so it's a situation whereby an array has arrays inside. Okay, let's say for example we have const numbers, and then sorry, I have this first. So the first number we have at index of 0 is an array, let's say 1 and 2, and at index of 1 is also an array, so we have 3 and 4, and the next index, which is of 2, we have yet another array, which is 5 and 6. Okay, now we're going to be looping through to have access to all of them. That's how to, of course, before the loop, before the loop, how do we access them? By their index, knowing fully well that this is index of 0, right? The entire highlighted array is in index of 0, this is index of 1, and this 2 is index of 2. Now how do we access them? If I say console.log of numbers at the index of 1, is going to give me 3 and 4, and 3 and 4 is not just a value. You notice that it's returning an array. But how about a situation where I don't want 2 of them, I only want 3? Because this is another array again, of course we'll introduce another square bracket. So in this second array, 3 has an index of 0, so I put 0 here, and then boom, it comes out 3. Yeah, but what if I wanted to see 4? This is 0 and this is 1, So I'm going to put 1 here. So I have this 4. I want to give you something to do for me. Yes, you that is watching the video, please do that. You can give me your answer in the comment section. I will appreciate that. Or if you have a question, please, it's very important. If there's something I said you did not really comprehend anywhere, anything that looks vague, please, on the comment section, I will respond to that. Now I want to access 5. This is 0, 1 and 2, so it means we'll do 2 here, and 5 is 0 on the second array. So we put 0 here, that will give us 5. Of course, if I had wanted to access 6, I would just put 1 here. Okay, so the one I'm giving you as an assignment, access only 2. Yes, only 2 for me. Thank you. Okay, now how do we loop through arrays of arrays? So looping through array of arrays. Yeah, that's an array that has arrays inside. Now, and I don't just want us to loop this, I want us to loop it and then get the sum. Yes, so say find the sum of numbers array. Yeah. So we use 4. This is our old friend, is really handy. So we say that I is less than numbers dot length, and then I plus plus. And of course I want us to take this step by step so that you also understand that, you know, in the first layer we have 1 and 2 at index of 0, 3 and 4 index of 1, 5 and 6 index of 2. So by the time we send this to console, now we are getting the first layer. So we have numbers, and of course this is I. Please, if you've not watched my video on arrays, please do well to do that, on loop rather. It's going to help you so much. So this is index of 0, index of 1 and index of 2, but that's not really what we want, because you can't add at this point and get the value. No, you can't just sum the arrays and get a single value like a sum. No, it's not going to work. So it means we'll have another level of loop, but then we need a container where we can be storing the value. So we can say container to be equal to 0. Okay, then I'm going to comment this. Please permit me to do that, because we're going to be having another loop. It's going to be a nested loop, so we'll have another for loop inside. Please watch the video on loop. So let me use j. Let j to be equal to 0, and then j is less than numbers that has index of I, because before we run the next loop we need a variable holding the values. Yes, and the variable holding the values that we are getting the length is numbers I, because when we did the first one we are looking at numbers as the variable name. So the second loop, numbers I, because that's what returned what we have here, and that's what we want to loop again. So we say dot length of this, and then we have j plus plus, and then yeah. So here what we are going to be doing, we'll add to the containers, because if I say console.log, now it means we've succeeded in bringing everything out of the loop. They are standing alone. How do I mean? I will say numbers of I and of j. So let's see, it's going to give us everything. Yeah, so sorry, this first one is coming from here. This 6 and 4 is coming from here. If I comment these two this way, yes, we're going to be having yes, 1 to 6. So let me uncomment them again. So but we don't want them to be listed this way. We want them to be added, and we want to return a result, which is the sum. Okay, so now I comment this, and then of course already we've initialized a container. You remember, variable is a container for holding value, and now this container name, I called it container, and is empty. The reason why I assign 0 to it is because I want to be adding numbers. Assuming I want to be adding letters or string, I should have used empty quote. Now, why do we use it that way? Let me give you a scenario. If you want to pour the content determines the container of what you are storing. Yes, content determines the container of what you are storing. If I want to store water, I can't use the school bag, the laptop bag, and start storing water inside and say container is container. No. Then if I want to store books or laptops, I can't go and use basin or bath. No. So the content determines the container because it's numbers. So I initialize with 0, telling JavaScript interpreter what you are going to be holding has to be integers. Assuming I do this way, I'm just telling it, okay, what I want to be storing is going to be string or letters. Okay, so please bear that in mind. So now we are going to be populating our container using this guy. So let me use this guy to populate our container. So here I will now send the container to the console to see what is inside. So container has succeeded in bringing those together. 21. Yeah, this is 1 2 gives us 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 10, 10 plus 5 is 15, 15 plus 6 is 21. So please, if you have any question on the comment section, reach out to me, ask me. And we are on a journey. We started from operators, but we are now talking about arrays. Just like I said, in the next video I will talk about important array methods. The array methods I know I'm going to be talking about by the time I start making videos on React, on Node.js. So please follow along, watch those videos. Anyone you have any concern or any question, reach out to me on the comment section. And then if I give an assignment, please do well to do them. Do not ignore. Okay, thank you so much. It's not easy to sit for a long time and watch tutorials like this. And also please, I would advise you try out something, build something, break something. Yeah, thank you.